Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. Once again, this is a little bit new, but you're here at the Facebook Live Wednesday Wealth. We're going to be talking about credit today. As you notice, I got a different background because we got to change it up sometime. If we're going to get to where we want to get to as far as credit, we want to make sure that, we got to change it up sometime. So today, as promised last week, we're going to talk about what we need to do to create generational wealth in dealing with our credit. As you notice behind me, we're going to talk about our personal credit. A lot of us have struggled during the pandemic. A lot of us has been frustrated about our job situation, and a lot of us have got on YouTube. We're listening to a lot of people that's talking to us about our credit and what we should do. Should we cut up our credit cards? What should we do as far as paying off our debts? We already know that there's a challenge that's going on in our community, that we can't get the type of resources that we need. And for so long, we have talked to other people about our problems. And so many times we have gotten information that was incorrect. So being in the business for about almost 20 some years, dealing in real estate, dealing in banking, dealing in finance, I come to realize that the cavalry is not coming. The creek is rose and the levee is giving way. It's up to us to save us. So today we're going to talk about generational wealth from a business standpoint, from a practical standpoint. Go get your family, go get your friends, log in, tell somebody about this video. Let's share it, because today we're going to talk about how we can get out of the rat race, how we can help ourselves. We're going to talk about what we need to do to get our credit straight. How can we get some of the stuff off our credit? What does our credit score mean? How do we create a budget? How can we create that? How can we get that credit to help us with our businesses that we so desperately need? How can we finance it in a day of pandemic? And there's so many jobs out there, but there's so little opportunity for us to get access to the credit that we need to take care of ourselves. So today, I've gotten so many calls about how can you, Cepeda, tell us about our credit? How can you help us? So today I'm gonna dive deep into it. This is a class that I normally teach. I pulled some of the bullet points out. I wanted to change it up for us so that we can pay attention to get our credit straight. So the number one thing that when we're talking about credit is no more than an evaluation of what you are after you graduated from high school. Actually, that's what it is. But today, we're going to talk about how it can benefit you. And then we're going to talk about what you can do to increase your score, what your score means, what are some of the things that affect your score, how can you get good credit without making more money. Okay. Some of us are single parent homes. Some of us have been trying to fix our credit. We've paid people to do it, and we're still in the same rat race. Today, I tell people all the time, I'm not going to repair your credit. I'm going to show you how to do it. I'm going to show you how to do it today. We're going to create the 700 credit club to where at the end of the year, we're going to do something real nice. We might charter a jet or something to Miami to celebrate what we're doing, because when you have a credit score, that opens up generational wealth. Back in the day, when my parents was purchasing a car or a home, my grandfather would go down to the car dealership and he would go and purchase the car, and he would say, I have good credit. He might have been paying 21%, but he got the vehicle that he wanted, and it was, in his view, he had good credit. Never did he realize that he could have gotten a lower interest rate and the payments could have been half of what he was paying. So today, we're going to dive into what is considered good credit, what is considered bad credit, what affects your credit score, what does it mean, and what can you do to help yourself. Okay, that's what we're going to accomplish today. Secondly, what we want to do is make sure that by the time this is over, that you will be able to answer some of the questions. And I'm going to give up bullet points on how you can increase your credit score. So we can't say that we don't have these opportunities now, because today we're going to cover it in detail. Okay. So the first thing we're going to talk about is, what does your credit score mean? What does your credit score mean? So you you have a credit score from 3 to 850. That is your credit score. So you're going to fall in between those two lines. Okay. Now, when you have good credit, you should be flowing in abundance, living your best life. You're able to help others. When you have good credit, you'll find that you are living in abundance. You are very disciplined. But when you're living in lack, you really can't help out other people, and you're always robbing Peter to pay Paul. And then you gotta act like you're living your best life. A lot of times when we're looking on Facebook and we're looking on TikTok and we're looking at some of the celebrities that are helping us in our community, we want to be like them. But our credit score does not reflect what we are doing. So, what we have to do, and what I've done, is that you have to be able to get your credit score low, get your budget under control to where you can actually afford your lifestyle that you're living. Now, we all know, and I use the cup in this analogy, we all know that there's different type of cups, there's different sizes of cups, and there's different people are at a different credit uh, place in their own finances. So whatever your finances is, whatever you make a month, that's what your cup is. Now, what you put in your cup, you should always live beneath, or your cup should always be overflowing. You shouldn't always live up to the rim. You should never live up to the rim. You should be overflowing. And the way that you do that is that your budget or your lifestyle has to be less than the income that you're bringing in. The income that you're bringing in got to be more than what your expenses is. So if you only make $2,500 a month, bring home, right? Then you should only be living off of a certain amount of your income. You got to live. And whatever that is, don't be ashamed. And that's the number one thing of why people mess up their credit, is because they feel ashamed. And you should never feel ashamed of what your lifestyle is. And you should always know that it does not matter what you're doing today is going to matter what you're going to do tomorrow. So a lot of us, when we get on Facebook, we want to say, "Hey, I got this, and I bought this, and I have these items," right? But what did you do to get those items? Are you paying 21%? Are you paying 15%? Did you pay for it cash? Do you have the resources to maintain it? So these are the things that we're going to talk about tonight in our Facebook Live. The second thing is, uh, what is on your credit report? So a lot of times we understand that the breach came. Equifax, if you've been watching the news, Equifax have had a breach. There's some of the your information might have been compromised. So what you need to do is pull a credit report. You have creditscore.com. I think they give you one tri-merge a year. You need to do that, and you need to find out if there's any breaches on your credit report. As you notice, what's on your credit report, it could be bankruptcies, um, it could be something as minor as a change of address, your employment. A lot of employers are starting to go to seeing what your credit score is, to see what your credit is, to look for a promotion. So credit has become king in reference to opportunities and generational wealth. Okay. So if you are looking for a promotion to get more income, then you need to know what your credit score is, because if you are competing with somebody and you guys are on the same level and they got to make a decision of which one is going to get the job, they will more than likely pull a credit report, and whoever has the best credit or less derogatory credit, then that person will personally get the job. You might say, well, that ain't got nothing to do with me doing my job. Yes, it does. Because, for instance, if you on your credit report, if it shows that you've been evicted from an apartment 4 or 5 times, and this other person is a homeowner that's staying in a $50,000 house and they're making payments, then that person who's more stable is more likely to come to work on time, okay, not steal from the company, okay, and not have a low attendance. Now, I'm not saying that you won't do those things, that you will do those things, but looking at your credit report, it gives you a snapshot of what your history is and what you traditionally do and don't do. Okay, so all of these things is on your credit report. How do you pay your bills? What type of bills do you have? Um, what type of it has your birth date on there, when you were born, your social security, all these things is on your credit report. So the actual credit reporting agency has this information. So you can't run, you can't hide, it's out there. Okay. The next thing is what can I do to increase my credit score? Okay. As people begin to understand, there's things that we can do that doesn't require you to make more money to get your credit score to where you want to be. We learned earlier that your credit score is from a 300 to an 850. The number one reason why people get bad credit is because of ego. The number one reason why people are struggling today is because they're trying to live like the Joneses. So many times I hear people say, well, I need to get this or I need to get this. And I even hear on dating, when you ready to start dating or you get ready to get in a relationship, we often say, we need to find out what his credit score or her credit score is, make sure that we're not unequally yoked. But when we're really truthful about it, credit is an individual thing. It's about the way you conduct yourself and the way you pay your bills. What bills did you create? The way we look at credit in the African American community is totally different than the way other people look at credit. Let me give you an example. We have more millionaires in our community that are athletes, okay, than any other group of people in the world, okay? We have more African Americans that are athletes, but we have less credit and zero banks in our community. So why is it that we have these multi-billionaires, Kanye West, P. Diddy, Michael Jordan, Oprah Winfrey, with no banks? Because we don't understand credit. So let's look at credit. So these are some of the things. If you have struggled in your credit, I often teach people, start right where you're at. Okay. Don't try to get into a long drawn out, hey, I'm going to do this in the future. No, most of the time when we're looking at credit, we want to start right where we're at. That's the first thing that you got to do. Start right where you're at. If you have a 500 or 400 score, this is where you're at. Knowledge is power. Okay. So if you have a 500 score, you see these are the things that affects your credit report. 35% of your credit has nothing to do, have everything to do with payment history. 65% of your credit has nothing to do with your payment history. So yes, payment history is important, but 65% of your credit has nothing to do with your payment history. So guess what? If we can control the 65%, we can work on the 35. So the first thing that you can do to understand how you can increase your credit score is get a good payment history. That's a given. Okay. 30% of your outstanding debt, which is your credit, if you got $1,000 credit card, the banks want you to be only utilize 30% of that. If you can get down to 30% of the utilization of your credit card, 30% of that will increase your credit score. You will get a 30% bump. Okay. It's not how much income you have, it's how much credit you're utilizing. So with those guys that said cut up your credit cards, they was telling you to cut up 30% of your credit. I'll say it again. Those people that said cut up your credit cards are the same people who are saying cut up 30% of your credit. We understand now that as you got those credit cards, if you had $1,000 credit card and you hit the pandemic, the ones who are successful, the ones who are able to get the lower interest rates are the ones who kept their credit cards and they lived off their credit cards and they didn't max it out. Those are the ones who are successful today. You have to begin to understand that it's not about keeping up with the Joneses. It's about making sure that you have opportunities in the future to benefit you. Okay. So we already made the mistake. We got bad credit. What can we do? Cepeda, I understand that. I'm already over debted. How can I get it? Okay. So the first thing you got to do is get your credit cards and get all of your credit cards, all of your monthly payments, and what your expenses are. Okay. Amount of credit owed. That's 30% of your credit report. Okay. Types of credit: car loans, house. A lot of people say home ownership. I don't want to buy a house. I want to rent. Well, it's going to affect your credit because when you have a home on your credit report, guess what it does? It makes it available for you to get a higher score. Okay. Low new credit inquiries. So when you go and buy a car, this is a trick. When you go and buy a car, pay attention here. When you go and buy a car, you want to make sure that they only pull one credit report on you, because what happens is the dealer goes and sends it to 15 to 20 different financial institutions to get you approved. Well, guess what? Every last one of those dealers is going to pull a credit report and you're going to get an inquiry. And all those inquiries is going to be 15 to 10% of new credit. Is going to be of your credit. So guess what happens? Your credit score is going to take a plunge. And it normally stays on there for a while. Okay. Some people say they can get it off, but it always comes back. Some people say it just stays on there for a year, but I've seen them off in a couple of months. But either way it goes, your credit score is going to take a hit when those inquiries come onto your credit. Okay. Types of credit in use. That's another one. You have to be familiar with your type of credit that you use. Do you have a gas card, or do you have a second mortgage, or do you have a car loan? Do you have student loans? All of those things has a weighting on your credit. So you want to make sure that your credit has a mix, of the proper mix. You want to have some homes. You want to have some credit cards. You want to have student loans. All of those things affect your credit. And I know some people are saying, I want to be debt free. I'm with you on that, right? But I also understand that only because you're debt free, that doesn't mean that you don't have access to credit. Okay. I'll say that again. I was speaking to a young individual today, and they said, well, I got perfect credit. I don't need this. Well, let me let you know something. We're going to talk about this in our 700 club. But if you have perfect credit and you don't have lines of credit, if you have an 800 score, then you should pretty much, or 750 score, you should pretty much have a $200,000 to $300,000 line of credit. Credit cards, a line of credit, unsecured lines of credit with different banks, different institutions. These are the tools that you need if you have perfect credit. And it's not saying that you have to use it, but what I am saying is that you need to have it accessible to you. This is what we need to do in our community to create generational wealth. Okay, because when we never know when a pandemic or a tragedy or something is going to happen, and we all know that when you need the money, you can't get it, and when you don't need it, that's when you get it. So what we have to do is understand that credit is a tool to create generational wealth. That's why when we go into our communities, we go down there and we see other nationalities in the African American community starting up businesses. They didn't necessarily have the capital or the cash. They did it on their credit, and they don't even have social security numbers. So how did they get it? Last week, we talked about business credit. This week, we're talking about personal credit. So now you have a social security number. They want your social in order to extend your credit. That's fine. Look at what I mean when I say this. Once you establish credit, now you're able to move freely to do whatever you want to do. And we all want to create opportunities or generational wealth for our families. Okay. Now, credit mix, we talked about that. Pursuit of new credit, we talked about that. So, what can we do? So now you have the blueprint of what affects your credit score. Most of the time when you get a tri-merge, there's normally 3 points that go off your credit. Whenever somebody pulls your credit on an average, it normally 3 points, fluctuates a little bit. But mainly it's 3 points goes off your credit for every inquiry. That was one of the questions that I was asked before we got on live. But 65% of your credit has nothing to do with payment history. So, ladies and gentlemen, if you are a single parent, one income, don't get frustrated by the ability to make your monthly payments. We're going to talk about what you can do. I'm going to give you some tools that you can use personally to help you get your credit lined up without making more money. The first thing you got to do is understand what your credit score is. Okay, so let's talk about it. If you got a 500 to a 579, the banks look at your credit score as poor. 580 to 619, very poor also. 620 to 659, let me take a stop right here. You can qualify for a home at 620 to 659. You can start to get credit even though your credit is not good. You can start getting credit at this point. You can purchase a home with a 620 score. Now, it's called an FHA loan or a or some people call it a non-QM loan. Okay, a 620 to 659. That's where you're going to be at. If you score a 687, that is considered average. Okay, that means that you are starting to establish yourself. Most of the time, you cannot go into a bank and get a loan with that type of score. Okay, you cannot do that, but you're on the verge. You're starting to move forward. A 687, there's still some banks will lend to you, but they want some type of security. Okay, they want some type of collateral. When you're trying to get a loan with the bank or with the financial institution, they want a car loan. 687 will start to get you there. Okay, if you score a 660 to a 669, you are doing fairly decent. Okay, some banks, some institutions, we're going to give you the institutions that will lend to you in that area on the 700 club. But 660 to 669, that will kind of get you through the door. Okay, you can, at this point, you're going to start to get the lowest rates on the market. You're going to start to, you might have to do some things to get qualified, like 3 years of employment. You might have to have some type of down payment, or whatever the case may be, but you can start to get personal lines of credit. There's credit cards that's going to start coming to you. Do not cut them up. If they offer you a credit card of $5,000, take it, don't use it. Just keep a zero balance on it or a very little balance and pay the fee, the yearly fee, the annual fee, because you're going to need it in the future. Okay, if you score a 700 or above, 700 or above, that's considered very good credit. When you're talking about getting your credit straight, you got to have a goal in mind to where you going to make sure that that credit is speaking to you. It is a definite fact. Your lifestyle has to be with your credit. Okay. So many times when people are talking about credit, their lifestyle, it does not represent their credit. So what does that mean? I go out and purchase a Lamborghini for, well, let me just be realistic. I go out and purchase a 2020 truck at 24% interest, right? My counterpart went down the street. He purchased a truck. He has this, me and him has the same credit, but he doesn't go out and purchase a 2022. He goes out and purchases a 1994, right? So it's a junker, is shaking and rocking and rolling, but his payments is $75 a month. My payments is $700 a month. What happens? As I start to increase my credit score, I can go get the vehicle that I want. This person is stretched out and he can never get out of the rat race. So we got to make sure that when we're talking about our credit, we want to make sure that we are living our lifestyle that our credit represents. So many people have came to me and said, Cepeda, you don't live like you got your own business. You don't live like you have this, or you don't live like you have this, or you should be further along than this. This doesn't look right. But what has happened is I understood, because of the people that I went around taught me, that Cepeda, you have to focus in on your credit, and you have to live within your budget. That is all the credit report is saying, is that you must live within your budget. You can't go buy $1 million house and don't make, a substantial amount of money. Okay. But what you can do, right, is buy a $50,000 house, buy some other investments, and then you can live like you want. Okay. So many people are out here teaching on generational wealth, but the number one thing that we got to teach on in our community is credit. Okay. Because when you're starting to when you get an understanding of credit, then that means that your kids will probably go to a better school. You will be a lot less stressed. Okay. I know that there's times where, in the banking industry, I've sit in on conferences and they've told us that and it's a fact, the women that stress out over debt and credit and their menstruals change. Okay. Or men, they become sterile because they are burdened down with credit. A lot of marriages are destroyed because of credit, where, you don't, there's a disconnect on how you should pay your bills. So this is why we're going to create the 700 Club. The next thing is you got to understand, what does your credit score mean? Credit is as important as the key to unlocking the key to your future and creating opportunities for you and your family. The most important thing about credit is knowing how did you get your score and what does your score looks like and what do you need to do for companies to extend credit to you or to hire you. Okay, I'll say that again. I know that was a mouthful. Your credit score means, what does this bank need to do? What do you need to do to extend credit to you? If you have a bankruptcy, that's not the end of the world. Okay. You just got to do some things in order to reestablish credit. We'll talk about that. We're going to open it up to join the 700 Club. We're going to create a club and it's going to be a Zoom meeting once a week. I'm going to be teaching you exactly how you can increase your credit score, what you should do in reference to your credit, and how you can benefit your own self so you don't have to be in the rat race for the rest of your life. Everybody wants to get out and do better for themselves. But how can we do it if we don't know what we're doing? How can we increase our credit? And how can we say that we're going to be generational wealth if we don't even know where to start? A lot of people is talking about the get rich quick and invest into stocks and invest into real estate and invest, but they don't understand that people want to invest, but they don't understand their credit situation. So they're robbing Peter to pay Paul. And they never get out of the rat race. How can you do it when you don't know what to do? That's what we're here tonight. Okay. So the next thing we're going to talk about is there's 3 type of credit reporting agencies. We're going to ask, I got a question that came up from Mariah. It says, what do I need to do if I have a business? How would that affect or affect my credit. Okay. So one of the things that you got to do if you have a business, and we talked about this last week, if you have a business and your business is just getting started, a lot of times they will want you to guarantee that loan. Okay. So once again, you got to have assets. You got to have good credit. And we understood what good credit is. It's a 700 or better. Okay. Then you can get lines of credit. And there's different ways on how you can establish business credit through your personal credit. But the main thing is that you got to have an asset to create that generational wealth for your business. So that was the first thing you got to do. So what is the 3 credit reporting agencies? It's TransUnion, Equifax, and Experian. TransUnion, I'm sorry that it got cut off, but in my PowerPoint, but TransUnion mainly is one that deals with your cars, student loans, businesses, things like that. That's TransUnion. Equifax is the one that had the breach. Okay. Equifax will be more or less like what we want to be talking about, like when you're with your retail stores, things like that. They'll pull an Equifax. And Experian, they'll more or less, they're going to pull a combination of a car loan, things of that nature. Okay. But they all 3, depending on what institution that you're going to, they might not pull all 3 credit reports. All 3 is called a tri-merge. Okay. That means that they have pulled all 3 credit reports and they're going to take the average. So if you have a 700, a 650, and a 500, they're going to take the middle, the lower in the middle. They're going to take the middle one. So the 750, they're going to take out. The 500, they're going to take out. They're going to go with that 600. Okay. They're not going to add them all together and divide it. They're going to take the middle of the 3 scores. They're not going to take your highest. They're not going to take your lowest. If you only have 2 scores, they're going to take the lower of the 2. Okay. So if you have 2 scores, they're going to take the lower of the 2. And if you do have 2 scores, you need to establish a little bit more credit so you can get that 3rd report coming up. Okay. We're going to talk about that in our 700 Club on how we can make sure that you have 3 scores reporting on your credit report. Okay. So TransUnion, Equifax, and Experian are the 3 reporting agencies that is on there. Now, how do you get in contact with these agencies if you have some things that is not correct on your credit report? I just disclosed to you how you can call them, and the numbers are right down here on the screen. Customer service, you might be online for a while, but it's worth it because if there's something derogatory that's on your credit, you can call them and they will get it off for you. Now, let me stop right here for a second. When you get one thing off of your credit report, just say it's with TransUnion. When you look at your credit report, it's going to tell you TU. That's the initials for TransUnion. EQ is going to be the next for Equifax. EX is going to be the number for Experian. And depending on who is reporting on your credit report, those are the letters that you need to send to them. Okay, it's public information. The next thing that you must do when you're talking about generational wealth, you must understand that you can get this stuff off of your credit if you provide the letters and things that is needed. I'm not going to get into how do you get it off tonight, but these are the things that you got to do these are the institutions that you got to call in order to get it off. If you would like for us to assist you with that, sign up for the 700 Club or give us a call. We'll do a full-blown credit report on you, make sure that everything looks good. If you're looking to buy a house or whatever the case you might be, or you can be just saying, hey, I want to get good credit and I want to make sure that I'm setting up myself. Let me let you know a trick talking about generational wealth. We teach here at Mad Capital Investment Group, if you have children between the ages of 12 all the way up to 25, 30, however, if you go get a secure credit card and you can only use it, your kids can have good credit when they get ready to go to college. That is giving them a hands up instead of a hands down when they go into college. Because then when they go to college, they have credit because they're going to get the student loans. And I know that there are people out here that are saying college is not important. That's not what we prescribe to. If you're going to have a child that goes to college, give them the opportunity to have good credit. Not just good credit, but an opportunity for them to thrive in their environment. So your kid is going to go to college, make sure that they have good credit. You can go get a secure credit card, put you, your husband, or if you by yourself with your kids, you can put up to 3 to 5 different people on that same credit card. And guess what? It all reports to the same agencies, and it gives each and every last one of you the opportunity to establish good credit. So make sure that was just a tidbit that I wanted to help us with. Okay. Creating a budget or creating a lifestyle. Okay. So we've been talking about investing. We've been talking about investing. We've been talking about where should you invest? Real estate. We've been talking about, should we invest in the stocks? Should we invest in the bonds? Should we create a business? Well, let me let you know something. It doesn't matter if you're investing in the stocks, if you're investing into real estate, it does not matter. Let me give you the blueprint on how you can create generational wealth for you and your family. And this is how I've done it. Okay. The 20% rule. The 20% rule says that you should live off of 20% of your net income. Not your gross, it's your net. I'll say it again. 20% rule states that you should live off of 20% of your income, not your gross, not your net. You might be saying to me, Cepeda, I only make $2,000 for general for purpose. So you telling me that I should only live off of $200? Yes, I am. Why? Because if you want to have a better quality of life, if you want to stay in a place that's $800 a month, guess what? You need to find ways on how you can generate more income so that you can afford the lifestyle that you want. That's how you create generational wealth for you and your family and your kids. 20%. And you're not going to be able to keep up with the Joneses. You might have to sacrifice some things. You can't go out and party and spend your money frivolously. You're going to have to find ways on how you can generate more income so that you can live the life that you want to live. 20% of your income that's what you got to live off of. And what does that include? Car payment, rent, gas, electric, food, everything else. So 80% of your income is going to be spent someplace else. Okay, so let's talk about where you should spend your other money. You should save net income. You should invest 30% of that income in something else. Create a business, create an opportunity for somebody else. See, when you start to bless other people, then other people will start to invest into you. So if you made $1,000, so let's use that as an example. If you made $1,000, so you got to live off of 200. Okay. So that means that $800 has to be invested. So if you made $1,300, guess what? I'm going to invest in somebody else's business. This is how we create generational wealth in our community. What opportunity can I take my money and invest 30% into your business? You know a lot of people that have a lot of great ideas that are your family members, friends, or whatever. You have to learn how to create that generational wealth. This is what we don't talk about in our community. Some of the most talented people in our community are people who we see every day that don't have an opportunity, and we are not savvy enough or business smart enough to be able to invest into that person. I don't invest into people. I don't invest into companies. I invest into people. I invest into people's ideas. I invest into people's opportunities. I invest into people that are moving, going to get me to a higher level. What do you mean, Cepeda? Yes, I'm going to invest into my community. I invest into employees. I invest into my company. I invest into my children. I invest into my family members. I invest into my friends. 30% of my income is invested. Now that means that I can't do some of the things that I want to do. If I want to go out and start traveling around the world, I don't go out and max out my credit cards and then say, hey, I'll pay for it when I get back. No, I invest to make provisions for what I'm getting ready to do. Third thing, have a goal. Set a goal, then have a plan to go get to that goal. Have a goal and then plan it out. Put one foot in front of the other. Once you start to do that, then you're going to start to see yourself getting traction. So let me stop right here. The cavalry is not coming. The creek is rose and the levee is giving way. People are not talking about this. Once you set that goal, then your friends who you traditionally hang out with, you can't hang around them no more, because guess what? A lot of those people that you went around, guess what? They are in debt too. People who function, who are dysfunctional, normally surround themselves. There are people who are dysfunctional. Most of you people that you're going around now are people who are living above their means. But when you're talking about creating generational wealth and you're talking about making a change and fixing your credit, these are the things that you have to do to make more money for yourself. And we're still talking about credit, because when you live off of 20% of your income, that means that you're paying your bills on time. That means that your credit score is starting to go up. That means that you have cut off all the fat that you shouldn't be doing and getting yourself in a position that where you need to be. You might be telling your kids no. It might be telling your husband no, your wife no, it might be your friends. Whoever is getting you away from where you need to go, that is where you need to address. The fourth thing, study the interest rates. Interest rates are at an all-time low. You know why they're at an all-time low? Because you don't have access. Supply and demand. So what happens? The supply of money is in the market, but the demand of people who can get it is very little. Why? Because you don't qualify. Your credit score is not high enough in order for the bank to give you a loan. So this is why we have politicians, we have our leaders in our community that says, hey, the mayor and the bankers and everybody came in our community, but they don't give nothing back. They can't issue you your loan. So they're more than happy to come into our community and do all type of breakfasts and sit down with us and kiss our babies when they know that you don't qualify. So what we have to do is save ourselves, get in a position to where you can qualify to get all the resources that you need. And it's called financial literacy. And you have to start to budget yourself, and you have to start to be able to maintain what you have. So that means that you have to make the sacrifice in order for you to get ahead. This is something that's not popular. When that person comes in and they open up that shop in our community, guess what they're doing? They're sacrificing. You don't see them out partying. You don't see them at the local club. You don't see them out spending lavishly. What do you see them pulling up in a junker car? But guess what? They have a business. They are thriving. And guess what? 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 years. They're still in our community at the same store doing the exact same thing. And their kids have went through school, and their kids have went on and got married, and they helped their kids get a house. And guess what? When they retire, guess what they have? They have a little nest egg that's called generational wealth, that they own something. But it started with that 20% rule. We have to stop trying to keep up with the other people around us, because I don't know what you had to do to get what you got. But I do know this: if I do not sacrifice now, I can't reap a benefit later. So I'm giving you the blueprint on what you should do in order to get out of the rat race. Too many of us have laid awake, sleep at night, can't sleep at night, frustrated, disappointed, disgusted, and busted. And we living in a day and time where everybody's talking about a get rich quick scheme. Let me let you know there's only one way to get rich. Spend less than what you take in. Spend more, spend less than what you take in. If you're taking in 1,000, you only have to take out 500, you win at $500. And the more you invest in finding ways to invest, then that's how you win. Nobody's ever told you about the 20% rule, because guess what? They want you to become a consumer. Because as long as you're a consumer, then you're in debt to somebody else. And there's a Bible principle that says when you're in debt to somebody, that you're enslaved to them. So as long as you are a consumer, you'll never be a producer. And as long as you're a consumer, your kids will never see you as a producer. So what we must do in our communities is stop being consumers and start being producers. And when we start being producers, it has to do with our credit. And when we have our credit, our businesses will be able to flourish. I'm working with a young man now, and he's a friend of mine. And he has one of the best businesses out here. Okay. And he was able to fund all of his stuff off of credit. And he's going to be able to do some things later in life that most people dream about. But because he did it because of his credit, then guess what happened? He's able to make generational decisions for his future generations. You can't get to the mountaintop without climbing, starting at the bottom. I'll say it again. You can't get to the top of the mountain unless you start at the bottom. And so getting your credit straight is the number one thing that you got to do. So let me give you some more tips about credit. What we have is one of the things that we don't know about, and we're going to teach about it in our 700 Club, is something that's called compound interest. I'm not going to go into detail about it, but I wanted to just pull it up on the screen and kind of talk about it a little bit. As long as we are with these car dealerships and with these high interest rate loans, with these high interest rate credit cards, this is how we always stay in the rat race. You have what is called compound interest. So that means that they're charging you interest on top of interest, on top of interest, on top of the interest that you paying the interest on. So what can we do to get out of that rat race? Once again, if you don't know, you won't know how to deal with it. I want you, if you don't learn nothing else from me tonight, I want you to Google compound interest and look at what it is. It is the number one killer of things in our community. When we have a high interest rate, when we're paying 24% on a car, or we're paying 18% on a credit card, or we're paying 16% on whatever we got going on, then we are paying compound interest. The rich people use credit to benefit them. And what they use is they'll go out and get a low interest rate credit card, 3%, 2%, and then charge it up and keep their credit good and lend that money out to institutions or people like yourself that is more than willing to pay 18, 19, 20, 21, 22%. And they're getting it from the bank, which is your money that you put in the bank. And they're charging you getting only 2%, and they're charging you 18 to 20% of all the credit that's out there. Okay. So what is this? The amount of credit, the amount of your loan. This is the end thing. And then equals principal. How much, if you got $1,000 here, then The interest rate divided by the number of interest is compounded per unit. So what that means is that it's either annually or monthly. If it's monthly, it's 12. That number, the N is 12. That's monthly, 12 months in a year. Okay. If it's annually, it's 1 month. It's every year they're going to charge you interest. So that interest is accumulating over a longer period of time if it's annually. But if it's monthly, it's tallying it up every month, once a month. Okay. Now I'm gonna give you a trick. If you don't make any more money, and you don't have any more income, this is a thing that you can do. It's called biweekly payments. I'm not saying if your payment on your car loan is $200 at the first of the month, you break those payments up twice. $100 at the beginning of the month and $100 on the 15th. They're charging you interest on that 30-day period. Okay. So if you make that first $100 payment, if your car is $10,000, it's going to be $10,000. It's going to be $9,990. Well, $100 less. And then that second payment is going to be with the interest on there. Over a period of time, you're going to be paying off that interest, and your compound, they won't be able to compound that interest on you if you have high interest rates on your credit card. Okay. Once again, I'll say that again. I'm not asking you to make more money. You still got to make your car payment. You still got to make your house payment. But if you can get in the habit of making biweekly payments, your interest rate is almost going to be cut in half. Okay. And you're going to be able to pay off that debt a lot quicker. Now, I already told you that you need to live off of 20% of your income. Now, as you start to understand credit and you start to get your score to go up, then you can refinance that debt that you have. And now you're able to have more money that you have. Now, remember the first slide that I showed you that, we don't want to, and I'm going to go back to it. We want to be the cup. Okay. We want to be the cup that's running over. Once you start to tackle your debt and once you start to understand what your credit score is and your credit score starts to go up and you start to refinance that debt, then guess what? Your cup should start to run over. And when your cup starts to run over, that does not mean that you go out and get a bigger cup or you start spending more because you have more. That means that as your cup runs over, you start to encourage other people. And as you start to get to where your lifestyle wants to be, then you can start to get a bigger cup. But when you get your bigger cup, make sure that that cup is still overflowing. You don't start from an empty cup and then start all over again. You want to make sure that your cup is still running over at all times. And when you keep your cup running over, then you can be a blessing to somebody else. Then you can go out and have generational wealth for you, your family, your kids, your loved ones, your friends. You can make a loan without even expecting it to come back because your cup is running over. When we're talking about investing into our community, we're talking about our cups running over. Yes, sometimes we have to start with zero. I get that. But a lot of times when your cup is running over and we got 4 or 5 people, that's why we're creating the 700 Club, because I want people around me with their cup running over because they are a lot happier. They're smiling a lot more. They're a lot more accessible. They're enjoying what they're doing. Their life is great. They're walking in abundance and they don't have the negative attitude. And now we have generational wealth in our own community. We don't have to go outside of our community to get generational wealth. Other cultures do it all the time. They do it all the time. They create that cup. And once they create that cup, they're working there diligently to get that cup flowing over. And once you start to overflow that cup, I'm telling you, there's no feeling like it. There's no feeling like it. When that cup is overflowing and you're able to help somebody, you're able to be a blessing to your community, you're able to start your business, and your business is there for 15, 20, 30 years, and your kids can look back and say, hey, listen, I remember when we started that business and we're still here. That's generational wealth that's not talked about in our community enough. How can we have millions and millions and millions of dollars in our community and we don't have access? It's because we don't have access to credit. When you begin to understand to get your credit score where you need it to be, then you can have access to help out other people. And when you're able to help out other people, then those people will tell somebody else, and then somebody else will tell somebody else, and then somebody else will tell somebody else. My daughter was she did a poem, and her poem was, character can take you places that money can't. And she won Who Wants to Be a Millionaire, and it was an event that she won. And the point was, when you have good credit, that's a reflection of your character. And for those who have good character, and I'm saying that when you don't have the money to pay that debt, call that creditor. Call them up and say, hey, listen, I don't have the money right now, but I'm working diligently to get it. And guess what they'll do? Most of the time they'll work with you and they won't even report it. But if you don't work with them, they're not going to work with you. Once again, your credit report, if you're faithful with a few things, the banks will give you the whole kitchen. In the church, they say if you're faithful with a few things, he'll make you Lord over many. Your credit report is based on the same principle. It's broken up into 30, 60, and 90 days. Okay? 30, 60, 90. If you have made a payment, if you can't make a payment, a full payment in 30 days, and you go over the 30 days, make a partial payment. Send them something. If you send them something and they receive it, then they cannot report you as negative. They can't report that you missed your payment. Only thing you got to do is keep making that payment. Now, they're going to attack you on interest, but the key is not to get that thing to report negatively on your credit. So I'm going to open it up for questions now. And if you have any questions and you're watching the show, send it, and I'm going to open it up for some questions. Okay, you have Kimberly, let your cup overflow, invest in your community. That's one of the reasons why we're here. We're talking about creating opportunities in our own community. Generational wealth only starts with us. The cavalry is not coming. The creek is rose. The levee has given way. It's up to us to save us. We can create the overflow when we understand our credit. When we start to create credit, then we can get stuff for a lesser price than what other people are getting. Yes, that's 1,000% right. Mariah, which is the president of MA&D Capital, do you have a personal banker or a referral to get on the right track to establish credit? Yes, I have. Send me your information. Mariah and me will reach out to you. We will send you the people that you need to contact to where the bank is at, to where you can get your credit in a better position. Okay, there's things that you can do for yourself that you don't have to pay a whole lot of money to do, that you can get that credit done for yourself. Okay. Biweekly, utilizing biweekly payment has paid off for my rental properties and my cars years old. Mr. Jackson is the truth. Hey, listen, Tracy DeGrafferty, 1,000% right. You don't have to make more money to get your credit straight. If you make biweekly payments, you can get your credit to where it needs to be. You don't have to make more money, just making biweekly payments, following your credit score. As your credit score starts to get up, you start to talk to your people, send them a partial payment. As your credit score starts to go up, refinance that debt. Guess what? Now you're in the game. You're in the game. Okay? Anybody have any more questions? All right? It's getting to the hour. Like I said, next week, We're getting back to the basics. We're going to bring on some businesses. I'm going to have a major business on next week. If you are trying to franchise, or if you want to know what it takes to run a franchise, next week you want to log in. Make sure that you understand what credit is. The Calvary is not coming. The creek is rose. The levee is giving way. I've given you the tools. What affects your credit? Payment history, credit utilization. How much debt did you have on your credit? Not how much income you have, but how much credit you have. Do not cut up your credit cards. Make sure that you have those lines of credit available to you. As you start to get those lines of credit available to you, you need to be up under 30%. Okay, Cepeda, I got you. You need to be living at 20% of your income. And I know that's a hard pill to swallow. I know you'd be like, man, I don't know how I can live. Yes, you can. Because guess what? If you don't have good credit, pretty soon you won't be able to go to the doctors. You won't be able to do nothing without having credit. You need to understand that we got to start becoming producers instead of consumers. Quit trying to be like the Joneses. You do not need a 2022 and you're paying $800 a month for that vehicle and you only making $3,000 a month. That does not make sense. Okay? Make sure that you invest in the real estate, invest into your house, invest into you something that you can utilize that is going to get equity for you. Okay. I wish I could tell you that it can be different, but the Calvary is not coming. We got to tell the hard truth now. We have to get out of this rat race and we have to become producers instead of consumers. With the extra money that you have, the 80%, find ways on how you can invest to make more money. God gave you a brain to think about what you can do to help you get out of your situation. It's not about what your partner is doing. It's not about what your friends are doing. It's about what you can do to get yourself out of that situation. And guess what? Most of the time, when you start to change your habits, then guess what's going to happen? You're going to lose some of your friends. You're going to lose some of the people that you like going around. Why? Because they're not willing to make that sacrifice that you're willing to make to get to where you want to go. So you got to make up in your mind that I want to live a debt-free life. I want to have good credit. I want to create generational wealth. I want to do all of these things. I want to live in abundance. I want to live in overflow. I want to be a blessing to my community. And it starts with you disciplining yourself, establishing good credit for yourself so that when the opportunity presents itself, you're able to take advantage. That's what we're talking about tonight. Creating generational wealth. 300 score, doesn't matter. 850, that's what we're going to be striving for. Once again, thank you for allowing me to come into your home tonight. The Calvary is not coming. The creek is rose, the levee is giving way. It's up to us to save us. Today, we talked about credit. We talked about the opportunities that we can have in our own communities, that we can create in our own communities. Look, I even did the background is a little bit different. So I'm going to have to learn different things. And I'm going to close with this. Most of us, when we're dealing with credit, we're like snakes. We shed our skin, but we're still a snake. But when we start to truly understand generational wealth and we understand credit, we're like the butterfly. At first, we were in the cocoon. We couldn't move. We were just stopped. We were just right there. But the cocoon turned into a caterpillar. And the caterpillar got on the ground, and guess what happened? His views was only on the ground. He couldn't do anything better. It was on the ground. That was his view. But what happened is he metamorphosed into a butterfly. And when he became a butterfly, it means that he can fly over everything that he used to be on the ground on a level with. Ladies and gentlemen, I am trying to suggest that we have some great butterflies that's ready to fly away. But you have to get your credit straight in order for you to get to the level that you want to be at. It starts with you disciplining yourself, living off of 20% of your income, and investing 80% of that income into other people, into your stock markets, into your friends, into your businesses, into everybody else around you, so that your cup can overflow. And when you start to do that, then you're going to start to see creation of generational wealth. You'll be able to fly above everything that you're struggling with right now. The Calvary is not coming. The creek is rose and the levee is given way. It's up to us to save us. If we haven't learned anything in our community, is this throughout this pandemic, is this we're the only things we got. And we made it through this pandemic. Those who are here today, they made it through. And we've lost a lot of loved ones in the meantime. But it's up to us to save us now. We have to have better health care. We have to have better schools. We have to have better businesses in our community. We got to have better politicians. We got to have better teachers. We got to have better police. All of those things are important, and it all starts with credit. When you understand credit, that gives you the new opportunity. You become a producer. You can have choices. Bet on yourself and make sure that you are available for the opportunity when it knocks on your door. Credit is a great tool to get us out of this rat race. I even say this: credit is so important, and real estate is so important. I think that those two combined together are the biggest kept secrets in our community: real estate and credit. If we can understand, if we can master those two things, we can change the world. Once again, thank you for allowing me to come into your home to talk about credit. We're going to start the 700 Club in the month of April. You're going to get information about it. If you want to be a part of a movement that is going to create generational wealth, not just for you, but for you, your family, and generations to come, join the 700 Club, and we're going to make sure that you get the opportunities that you want. If you have a business, it doesn't matter if you got good credit, bad credit, you still need to help us help you. If you have a great credit, I had one person said, I got a 780 credit score. That's great. Then you have over $500,000 line of credit. If you don't, then you need the 700 Club. You need to learn what needs to do, what you need to do to get to that level. Not saying that you got to use it, but somebody else. We can invest in ourselves. We don't have to be multi-billionaires in order to learn the game of investments. So once again, thank you for allowing me to come into your home and talk to you about generational wealth. Hopefully this has been a blessing to you. And that's what we want to do, is help you get to where you want to be, where we're doing that also. So many times in our community, we have said, well, you got to make it before I do, then I can follow you. Well, when I do that, guess what happens? The price of stuff goes up. So what we're trying to do is come down to our level, not your level, our level, and create opportunities for all of us. Next week, we're going to talk about franchising businesses and having opportunity. What's the importance of having a franchise in a business? Once again, if you want to know what's on your credit, you want to know how to buy real estate, if you want to know how to get to a 700 Club, inbox me. I'll reach out to you. I have one of the staff reach out to you. Once again, thank you for allowing me to come on your home to talk to you about generational wealth. Once again, the Calvary is not coming. The creek is rose. The levee is giving way. It's up to you to save you. It's up to you to make those decisions. 80% invest, 20% live off of that and watch it change for you. It worked for me. I'm sure it'll work for you. Till next Wednesday, good night. Bet on yourself. The Calvary is not coming. The creek is rose and the levee is giving way. Good night, ladies and gentlemen.